hour and a half. So inshallah I only have this very small audience, but there's one important announcement which I want to make at the end of what I have to say. It is regarding the Adara itself, and I feel it is necessary to make sure that there are as many people here as possible so that they can hear about some of the aspects of the Husainiyya. At the beginning of my lecture, I talked about how is it that in a period of 50 years from the passing away of the Prophet, you have one of the most tragic events in the history of Islam. Perhaps one of the most tragic events in the history of mankind. Because had it not been for the sacrifice of Imam Hussein al-Islam, me, you, and everybody on this planet will have nothing to do with Islam. Islam would have been written like this. In the history of mankind, historians would have said that Islam came with the message from the Prophet, and it disappeared shortly after the companions. It was omitted from the face of the planet. And the relics which we have are today in the museums. I'm just writing history. Had Imam Hussein not had done what he has done, we would have seen relics of Islamic heritage in museums. The Quran in museums. And people would have said, this was the Quran which was revealed on the Prophet Muhammad. And shortly after, the Muslims disintegrated. This is how history would have looked upon Islam had it not been for Imam Hussein al-Islam and his sacrifice. At the beginning of the dialogue, I said, how is it? I asked the question, I posed a question at the very beginning of these lectures. How is it that Islam could have deteriorated to such an extent that only the period of 2 generations, 50 years, that this sacrifice had to be taken by the family of the Prophet? And the way I tackled this, there are many angles to reaching to the events of Karbala. But the angle which I have taken is from the perspective of suppression of information. And that suppression comes from the sunnah of the Prophet not being narrated. For the Quran was there. I said this a few days back. The Quran is samit, is silent. The Quran doesn't speak. We needed a Quran which spoke. And those personalities were the Ahlul Bayt. They were the talking Qurans. And these talking Qurans was the most threat for the government. So what did the government do? As soon as the government usurped power from the one who was chosen by Allah and announced at Ghadir, he was put to a side, and people collected themselves at Saqifa and decided to impose their own leader upon the Muslim Ummah. They were successful in this. They usurped the power from its center. They were successful. Now, their initial conspiracy is the word which was used in that film. I don't know whether any of you seen it was televised again today. And I'm just amazed, absolutely amazed, that DM Digital had the guts to show this again. And I was of the opinion that they will have many, many complaints from the Sunnis. Many complaints from the Sunnis. But Alhamdulillah, it was shown again this afternoon. And they even indicated that the door of Fatima to Zahra was burnt down, and the door was thrown open, and behind that door was Bibi Fatima to Zahra Salamul Alayha. And they said this, and I praise those people who made this documentary. I praise those people who made this documentary, because to be shown on British TV, it's a victory in itself. This is a victory for Islam, not for Shias. It is a victory for Islam, because true history is being shown and broadcasted on British and worldwide television. Because DM is shown in about 50 different countries in the Middle East. And what they said is that the crushing of Bibi Fatima to Zahra Salamul Alayha was not the crushing of Fatima. It was the crushing of the Prophet himself. Powerful words, but words of truth. When they had taken power, and then they suppressed the Ahlul Bayt by violence and economics. There were two ways that they suppressed the Ahlul Bayt. One was the direct violence on the house of Sayyidah, and the other was economic, with fadak being taken away from them. I have come across this, and maybe some of you read this as well. Bibi Fatima Zahra Salamul Alayha says to Mawla Ali, Ya Abul Hasan, Ya Abul Hasan, I have heard that people do not say salams to you. I have heard, Fatima was saying this, that I have heard that people do not do salam to you. And Mawla Ali says it is even worse than that. They do not even reply to my salam. What had happened to these people? The government made out that Imam Ali was a troublemaker. And this was what was propagated in Medina. That Imam Ali is not obeying the Khalifas. He is not obeying the government. And the people said, why is Mawla Ali doing this? We've selected a Khalifa, and what has happened has happened. There is one point which I want to make to you, and look at it like this. Khilafat is not a material post. Khilafat is not the prime ministership of any one country. It is the niyabat of the Prophet and Allah. It is a ruhani, religious, spiritual post. And that was the difference between the people around Imam Ali, who looked upon Imam Ali as Khalifatahu. This who is the Prophet, his Prophet, and the Prophet of Allah. And he was meant to undertake the responsibilities which the Prophet had from Allah, and then the Prophet had given to Imam Ali. So this was no just material post, it was a religious post. And the people did not understand this. They thought, well, okay, if Imam Ali has not got the leadership, Abu Bakr has got the leadership. At least we have a leader. That was more in their minds than understanding the concept of leadership min Allah, leadership directly from God. This is something which they could not understand. And those who understood this completely were round and they surrounded Imam Ali, the companions of Imam Ali. Now, going back to the original question, how is it that in this period this could have happened? Right, we had the first steps taken by individuals to take the power away from Imam Ali. They done this. Then the other thing they did was to economic suppression, and then it was information which was stopped. Anybody who narrated hadith, they were either imprisoned, they had been whipped. So nobody dared to narrate hadith. Now I want to link all this up. Please, link all this up, what I've said so far. What was the outcome of this? There are many aspects of this, but one point in particular is this. When people realize they cannot narrate hadith, and then you have a leader, this is the second Khalifa, who now is imposing his own opinion, his own opinions on Islamic thinking and Islamic law, you had the complete change of Islamic principles and Islamic actions. For at the top of my head, I can mention a few. You know, Shias, we read 5 rakat namaz janazah. And this was the same in the time of the Prophet. 5 qunuts, and we read 5 qunuts, yes? 5 qunuts.
5
takbeers, yeah. 5 takbeers. And in the time of the Prophet, this was the same as well. 5 takbeers. But during the time of Umar, he decided to change it and make it into 4. Then there was the 2 mutas, which he outlawed. Then the namaz-e-tarawih, which he brought in. There are so many things that he did. And also, yes, he also put a ban on tayammum. When a person needed to do ghusl, what Prophet had told, and what the Quran says, that you can do tayammum and then read your prayers, but he banned this. So many changes took place during the reign of the second Khalifa. It was because nobody was allowed and they were scared to narrate hadith from the Prophet. So what was happening? He was the qazi, the judge, and the enforcer. Do you understand that? He's the one who's implementing the laws. He's the one who's actually giving out the laws.
Making the law.
And he's the one who's giving the laws, making the laws, and implementing the laws. So in one personality you had all the things which are necessary, not for any one individual. This is the responsibility of an imam or a prophet. But he is taking on all this responsibility himself. To the extent that even the namaz was not spared. The namaz was not spared. For reading the namaz, which was customary during the time of the Prophet, was with open hands, like we do. But in his wisdom, he's seen these Persians coming with their hands on their stomachs. He thought this was a good way of showing respect. And he implemented this in the prayers as well. So these were the changes which were taking place. Now, Something else which is perhaps more important than anything else is this. Remember a couple of days back I said that Imam Ali was offered help by Abu Sufyan? And Mawla Ali said, I know how much you care for Islam. And when, obviously, words get round. People mentioned that Abu Sufyan was with Mawla Ali and he was mentioning this. And during the first Khalifa, what they did is they thought, during the time of the Prophet, the biggest enemy of the Prophet was Abu Sufyan. And he was a trader, he had a bit of money as well, he was wealthy. So why not put somebody and give him a position which we can then know that after we go away, he will not look towards the Prophet's family in any favourable terms. And this is what happened. As soon as they got to hear about this, what they did was, Abu Sufyan had a son called Yazid. He appointed him as the leader of the army, which went towards Damascus. They won the battle, and shortly after, Yazid was made the governor. He died. And then Umar made Muawiyah the governor of Damascus. You might think, so what? This was a deliberate policy on the part of the leadership to make sure that there's nobody in power who supports the Ahlul Bayt. And if they can implement this policy, they would have suppression of information, no information coming out. They would have people in power who did not like the Ahlul Bayt, and anybody who quoted any hadith from the Ahlul Bayt, they would be punished. So this is the framework which has now been put into place. The same thing occurred during the third Khalifa. The third Khalifa even gave Muawiyah more power. He ruled over the whole of Palestine, including Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, all these areas. He was in complete control of this. And what you have to bear in mind is that Damascus was away from the center of Islam, which was Medina. And secondly, that these people who've been put into power, they hated the Ahlul Bayt from before Islam. Because Abu Sufyan's wife, Hind, she is the one who took the liver of Hazrat Hamza and actually chewed it. These were the people which were now coming to the forefront of Islam. Not those people who were at the beginning and the helpers of Islam, but the enemies of Islam. Now, I'm going to skip a few parts of this and go on to Muawiyah. Muawiyah, after Imam Hassan did the peace treaty with him, he then had absolute control of the Muslim Ummah. Now, just bear this in mind. The Bani Umayyah were in control of Syria and the surrounding areas, the whole of Palestine, from the year 12 Hijri up until the death of Muawiyah, which was in 60 Hijri. So you nearly have a period of 50 years of rule of one family in Damascus. One person. And he is the enemy of the Ahlul Bayt. Now, Muawiyah, in his power, he has many people killed during his reign. Who poisoned Imam Hassan? Who had Imam Hassan poisoned? His wife poisoned Imam Hassan, Jorda, but behind this was Muawiyah. Muawiyah had Imam Hassan poisoned. Muawiyah had Imam Hassan poisoned. Hujr ibn Adi, Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr, Malik Ashtar. These were the companions of Imam Ali. Umar ibn Yasir actually died in Jang Safin, but I'm talking about secretly. And even Mullah Ali Shahadat, in the backgrounds of pages of history, it was the conspiracy of Muawiyah. Now, bearing all this in mind, Muawiyah does another thing. He then makes it government policy to curse Imam Ali. Imam Ali, during his reign, he has from every member on Jummah and Salatul Eidain to have the family of Ali and Imam Ali himself to be cursed on the members. And this was happening even in Medina. Can anybody imagine? You have the grave of the Prophet and then people on the member of Bani Umayyah, the sons of Bani Umayyah, cursing the Ahlul Bayt. And this was happening all over the Muslim Ummah. So gradually people were becoming unaware of the importance of Ahlul Bayt. They didn't realize who the Ahlul... I'll give you one incident. When Imam Ali was martyred in Masjid al-Kufa, when the news went back to Damascus that Imam Ali had been martyred in the masjid, had been stricken with the sword in masjid, they were asking, what was Imam Ali doing in the masjid anyway? Because these people had been so brainwashed about Imam Ali and the hadiths which were being put out against the Ahlul Bayt were so many fake, fabricated hadiths that people had no information of the Ahlul Bayt. So, as events unfolded, people were beginning to lose the importance of the Ahlul Bayt. And just going one step back, which I think is necessary, Jang-e-Jamal also played an important part in speeding up events. Jang-e-Jamal was one catalyst which brought the whole event of Karbala closer. Because it showed that rising against a Masoom was permissible. Huh?
What was it? What was it?
Jang-e-Jamal, I think by chance, I think you're quite aware. If you want me to tell to the people, that's a different question.
No, what was it? What was it?
I think
most people know Shahid.
This would be backtracking, and I think I want to go a bit quicker and a bit forward, and I've deliberately missed out.
So you tell me later on.
Brother Shahid, I know you know. I know he's trying to get information so I can tell to the people, but I'm going to get bogged down just by these things and not move on to my important thing. I have to talk about this as well. So, Jang-e-Jamal, in which Hazrat Aisha took the sword and took her camel and took the people to Basra, and she rose up against Imam Ali. And this gave Muawiyah the added power he needed, knowing that if Aisha could rise up against Imam Ali, then I can do it as well. So this was a catalyst which made the whole events of Karbala appear quicker. Now, we are reaching towards our goal, and that is to understand how is it that the events of Karbala could have taken place. Now, after the treaty of Imam Hassan with Muawiyah, the Ahlul Bayt left Kufa. The Ahlul Bayt left Kufa and they went back to Medina. So during the period of this Sulh, say from 40 Hijri up to 60 Hijri, from the death of Muawiyah to the peace treaty, you have a period of 20 years. 20 years in which complete control was with Muawiyah. And he was having these big companions killed. He was even Aisha, who was no friend of Imam Ali. She was no praiser of Imam Ali. And I could show you in history where she has said things yet you cannot even believe about Imam Ali. History has written this down, and you cannot believe what she has said about Imam Ali. So the events are, as we have understood so far, are unfolding.
Basically, you're saying that Abu Sufyan killed Libya.
This again is not the topic of the discussion. How she died.
How she died, and
The reason, I tell you, okay, Bashar has asked a question. He said, how did Hazrat Aisha die? The reason why Aisha was killed by Muawiyah was this, is that when Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr was killed, that was her half-brother. Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr was one of the most loyal servants of Imam Ali. He was raised by Imam Ali. But because it was her blood link, Aisha's blood link with Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr, that when she found out that Muawiyah has had her brother, half-brother killed, she then started protests against Muawiyah. And Muawiyah did not like that. So he invited her for a feast. Anyway, I think that is just a slight background. I don't have to go into the details. Now, Muawiyah is having the Ahlul Bayt cursed upon the platforms. You have people now not realizing the importance of the Ahlul Bayt. And then gradually Islam was already, from the very beginning, from the death of the Prophet, had gradually changed up in time till Muawiyah. Muawiyah, they say, was they say he was a very good politician. He was clever. He knew that his power was given to him because of the Prophet. He knew that if he openly said things bad about the Prophet, people would turn against him. So he did this secretly. And I have read this myself in a book, which said, when one occasion he was listening to the azan, and he said,